So now that we got our document looking pretty good, I wanted to go over how to specifically format your text and also a little bit on flowing. We're really going to cover this in the multi-page documents because that's where it sort of works the best. But I mentioned last lecture about flowing, so I just kind of want to explain that a little bit. And then, like I said, we'll go over like a big example in the multi-page section. So let's first go over how to format your text. Let's say you want the text to be a different color. To do that, all you have to do is click and then highlight the text, any text that you want to change. So, we don't have to highlight everything. We can just go to like right here or to right here. But let's go right here. And if we want to change the color, we can click on this area right here and it'll bring up the color swatch sometimes over here, and we can, make it go down and up. But the best way to do it for text actually is to go double click right up here into the fill. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring up the color picker. And this is a little bit of a complex color picker because what you have over here is you're going to have the green and the blue space, and then over here is your red space. So you have a bunch of buttons here. If I click on the green, then you'll see that this over here becomes my green space, and then this becomes the other two, the red and the blue. If I click on blue, it's exactly the exact same. We have green, red, and blue. So you're kind of controlling over on the right the one that you have selected, and over on the left, you're creating colors from that. So, you can drag this around, and if we add some more red into it, you'll see that red gets added into the whole scene. And if you add red to blue, it makes purple. If you add red into the green, it's going to make this yellow color. And then in the darker areas where they all combine, you're going to have the red, and it's going to go to white. And so that's kind of how you can do it. And you basically just have to play around with these and move these around to sort of get the color that you want. So let's say that we wanted to make it let's go with like a bright blue. So I'm going to make sure that the blue is all the way up, and then we should have all the selections of blue over here. So I'm going to go like maybe this sort of color. And you'll see that we've created this blue here. So just remember that you can always change the color of the text by just double clicking over here and then changing the text sort of around like so. It'll also bring up the color panel whenever you do this that we brought up earlier, and you can make small changes over here. Sort of quicker, but you won't have that big sort of color wheel to pull off of. The next thing I wanted to go over is that there are actually a couple of buttons in here that can really help you out. Up here, a lot of times we might want our titles to be all caps. So there's actually a button to do that right here, all caps. This is a smaller version of caps. Superscripting text, underlining text, striking through text, subscripting text. So for example, if we wanted to click on this button, we can actually make it go full. Let's lower the, usually capital letters are bigger than lowercase letters, but we can see that all we have to do is click one button and it'll make them all capital. We can really see this if we do it right here. It just makes them all capital. This saves you from having to, caps lock and then type it all out or hold shift or whatever. A lot of times we do just want caps in a certain area, so we can just click that button really easily. And like I said, there's a bunch of other buttons up there as well. So we could click the superscript button up here, and it's going to make whatever the text that you have selected a superscript, which is good for like math related things, but also for other sort of areas where you want to create text that is superscripted, which means up and sort of little, so that's basically attached to the word before. We can do the exact same thing by postscripting it, which means sending it to the bottom. We could underline it. We can, and you see that I'm combining all of these. So now we have all caps, it's subscripted, and it's underlined, which gives, unique style in itself. So let's go ahead and undo the subscript. Make sure that we have it highlighted here. We're going to undo the subscript here. And now you can see that we have it underlined. We can also strike through it right here. So now it's underlined and struck through. Let's go ahead and undo the underline here, and there you go. You have strike through, which is kind of good if you're making like an educational document and you want to like show errors or problems in something. You could just highlight it, strike it through, and then explain it later on. And then we have small caps, which is good in, so let me show you kind of where this works best, is usually if you highlight the back end here and you go like small caps on the rest, you see it gives a really unique style to this. Let me undo that strike through as well. It gives a really unique style to it. It's good like to maybe start a paragraph is to start with a regular size caps and then to go all small caps afterwards. Also up here we have just a couple of different formatting options. Over here we have our margin, left indent, Then we have the right indent. So we can like indent this entire thing, or we can just indent the first line. So if we click on the first one right here and we bring this up, we could create an indentation here to sort of give it some space and to make it look like it's the start of a paragraph. Of course, you can also use the tab button for this as well, but you'll notice that I can't actually delete any farther than this. So this is sort of a permanent indentation from the left side here. If I bring this back down to 0, you'll notice if I hit tab here, it's going to go really, really far. But now if I click delete, it'll undo that. So it's your choice on how you want to format the indentation. And then over here, we have some spacing options as well. So for example, what we have here is we have space before and space after. This is just going to control the distance between the lines before a line and after a line. So for example, if you ever worked with a Word document and you change it to double space, it's adjusting the before and after of them. Here you have an interesting sort of control here. It's going to drop the capital line and make it bigger. So for example, sometimes this is a really neat sort of style. If I make this go up, it's going to make our first capital X number of lines big. So right now, instead of it being 1 line big, it's actually 2 lines big. And we can make it even greater than that. We can make it 3 lines big. So you can see that it's perfectly the size of 3 lines. And then on the right one here, we can actually increase how many of these we want to capitalize. And it's going to do this for the beginning of every paragraph. So we can adjust our paragraphs to do this. We can maybe have a starting paragraph that starts like this, but it's just here. Like I said, it's actually pretty common to see this even on like blogs and stuff, and you don't even notice it. Just the first letter of the paragraph will sometimes be capitalized. It draws your attention and it makes it look kind of neat. Okay, and then I also wanted to quickly go over what I was talking about last time, which was flowing. So the idea of flowing is to have one text box flow into the next so that whenever you make adjustments to one, all of the other sort of text goes into the other one. And it's good if you have multi-page documents, and that's why we're covering it mainly in there. Because if you have one sort of text box on one page, you might want its content to flow on the next page. And if you change the formatting on the first page, you want the formatting to change on the second page as well to sort of reflect what you've done. Let me just kind of show you what we're talking about here. So let's go ahead and select all of this right here. Let's make it all caps so that we have some overset text. And then like in the last lecture, we are going to click on this and we're going to create ourselves a new text box. And we can actually draw one out with this selected. And you'll see that it adds in our text down here, like so. And let's say that we wanted it to flow right like that. So let's actually do a hypothetical situation. And let's delete this bottom text as its own entity. And let's say that we wanted this text to flow from the top under this line and then to the bottom. Now these two are known as they're flowed together, they're threaded together. And so what I can do here is if I click the enter key, let's say I wanted to like make a new paragraph, I don't know, right here. You'll notice that the rest of the text actually goes into the next text box. So it's respecting our text boxes here, and they're like one giant text box that's just been split up over different space. So that's just sort of a little introduction of flowing. The way you flow it is you grab the overset and you drag a new text box, and all of that text will go in there, and you can flow it to multiple documents. You can also sort of set it up a little bit easier by threading text, and we'll cover that specifically in the multi-page documents. But I just wanted to give you a little introduction of what you can do with your text and how you can flow it. I'm going to go ahead and revert everything back to the beginning of how we started here because I like the style that we began with. But you have complete and total control over this. I hope that through some of these things that we've gone over, you can learn that and you can just sort of have some fun, experiment around, and find a style that you really like.